this is an iHeart podcast.
Welcome to today's edition of the Clay Travis and Buck Sexton Show podcast.
Welcome, everybody, to the Thursday edition of the Clay Travis and Buck Sexton Show from our nation's capital. Having a great time here. I got to say, I have been so impressed and thankful and humbled that Clay and I have seen so many of you, our listeners, around D.C.
It's true.
And first yesterday, someone came up to me who wanted to take a photo. And I always, all of you, don't ever be shy about it. If you ever want to if you just want to shake hands or give me a high five, we love all of you who listen. All right, that is an ironclad rule. If you listen to this show, we appreciate you. We're always happy to talk to you. But at first yesterday, someone came up to me to show me the photo he had taken with Clay, I think earlier in the day, bumped into him on the street, and then bumped into me on the street. So that was something, I got to say.
Yeah, in Georgetown, yesterday morning on my way to go meet you, as we were headed out to the CIA, a guy on the street comes up and he's like super excited. He said his phone was dead. And so, but he was like, I really, really want to get a selfie with you. Love the show. Listen every day. I believe he's from South Carolina.
That's right. I can tell the accent. South Carolina for sure.
And so I said, all right, I'll take a picture here. I'm not a great selfie guy. My wife would say I'm really bad at taking pictures, and not just because of what I look like, but because I'm not very good at taking the photos. But I took a picture of a selfie with us, emailed the guy, from my email. And then you saw him too.
Yeah,
and he was like, this is after we finished dinner.
Yeah, he couldn't believe it. I mean, it was like 12 hours apart, and then I bumped it. So DC is a small city with a lot going on, a small city with a very big responsibility. Speaking of which, yesterday, we're gonna get into the heat's getting turned up on the Middle East and Iran, and obviously the deportations and the LA riots and what's going on in other cities. We're going to dive into all of that first, but just a little bit of what we're doing here. We yesterday went to, as we mentioned, to Langley, the CIA headquarters, and met with some of the senior folks over there. Had some off the record conversations about what's going on. So because it's off the record, I can't tell you much about that, but Clay and I did get to go very much on the record through the spy museum they have at Langley, which was very cool. I mean, they've got some great stuff. They've really upgraded it since I was there. And then later on in the day, I had a meeting. Well, we had a meeting. Clay can explain what happened. But we had a meeting with the Director of National Intelligence, Tulsi Gabbard, and her staff. And also
we is doing a lot of work. We had a scheduled meeting.
Well, we had a scheduled meeting that one of us went to. The other one, as a Tennessee resident, had a little boo-boo when it came to his ID.
So I got rejected at the White House and the old executive office building because I showed up for our meeting right after we finished the show yesterday, and I don't have a real ID. I've been traveling with my passport. The state of Tennessee doesn't make your driver's license default real ID. I don't want to have an 8-hour day spent at the DMV. Also, we have a weird schedule. We have to be on the air from 11 to 2. So Central Time, where I live in Nashville. So it's hard for me to commit to anything in the morning because it might drag into when our show starts. I got to drive back. And then by the time our show gets done, getting to somewhere before the DMV closes, it's like I have to take a whole day off work. And I've done it before. To get passports, for the kids. So anyway, I show
Florida just gives you real ID. I don't know. Tennessee losing some points here. Florida surging ahead in the red state sweepstakes. I'm just telling you the truth.
So they wouldn't let me in the White House.
Can I just say, I straight up asked the Director of National Intelligence.
It's true.
To vouch for my man Clay. Like, this felt like leaving him at the Velvet Rope at the nightclub. I was like, but you're not going to let my buddy in? And they're just, the Secret Service guys are just, no. Like, this is the, there's actually a sign.
Yeah, there's
a sign when you go in that says, you must have real ID. No exceptions. But Clay, of course, because his Clay was, I'm Clay Travis. Like, we tried a little bit of that. The Director of National Intelligence said, They won't let me in if I don't have proper ID.
Well, I mean, my argument was we did just spend all morning at the CIA, and I didn't need a real ID to get in there.
Spoken
so
like somebody who's trying to evade the rules, you know? Oh, I was at the CIA all morning. They've heard it all, Clay. They've heard it. So I had to leave a man behind. I don't know what to say. He was in the trenches. He was taking grenades, and I had to just run on the battlefield solo.
One positive on this is as I'm standing outside in the hot baking sun, unable to be let in because I don't have a real ID, which, by the way.
Oh, don't be one of these people that gets all sassy about the real ID.
The real ID, I am who I am. I sound like Sam I am. I've got the ID, right? The fact that it has a little star in the corner, is that somehow making the world safer? Like, is anybody out there like, hey, that terror attack would have hit, but boy, I'm glad we have the little star circle in the corner of the driver's license. This is the most ridiculous thing ever. So
this is not Nam. There are rules.
Yeah. So, but positive, trying to be positive, as I'm standing in the baking sunlight and the pavement, standing outside of the White House, unable to go in, I ran into former NFL kicker Jay Feeley, who had a real ID and was able to go in for his meetings. But he's going to be on the show in the second hour because I was like, hey, you just want to come on the show? So I booked us a guest while standing in the hot sunshine pavement with my not real
all
ID.
That sweating through your dress shirt was worth it. I think you earned it. So we're going to have Jay Feeley on. I spoke to Tulsi D&I Gabbard and her staff. Again, off the record, but I can just tell you that really good context for us to understand here about some of the moves that the administration is doing. This is really why we're here. Touch base with Trump's top team and the people who are making the big decisions. And we've got some other meetings that are scheduled that we'll be telling you about. I'm sure you can have some guesses as to who, but the point is we wanted to just have time to speak to everybody. What are you working on? What's happening? What's going on? And to do it in a way where they can just speak freely to us. And, look, they know we're openly, avowedly pro-Trump administration, want to see success. Because really, I truly believe that the success of the Trump administration is the success of the country and the American people. But you always get, whenever you're in D.C. and you can speak to people freely. And again, I said, can we say we've met with you? Yes. But the contents of the discussions were off the record. You get much better exchange because people, even if they trust you, they don't really trust anything in this town. So they had to keep some of that stuff between all of us.
With all that in mind, the president has been talking about this. They had Les Miserables. Did I pronounce that?
You did. That was pretty.
Thank you.
Yeah.
They had the play going on at the Kennedy Center last night. And the president was asked about this Iran conflict and the issues associated with it. And they've been pulling, this, because when you were in the CIA, when they start pulling people
out of
family members out of embassies in the Middle East, there is a sign that things are not going very well and that there is potentially tension associated with how things could go. And so the reason why I bring that up is it seems to me, Buck, that Israel is ratcheting up the pressure and really wants to attack, and that they want to go into Iran, and that they want to do it now. And so, again, there's reportedly a weekend meeting that is scheduled, but it feels to me like the Trump administration is basically letting Iran know, hey, we're not going to continue to protect you from Israel. And if we are pulling our people out of the Middle East, that is a sign that they don't necessarily know how this meeting is going to go, and things could get a lot worse.
I will tell you, I think the heat is higher right now with Iran and this. It's been, I understand, the Iranian nuclear issue has been playing out for many years, for decades, actually. And now we have a situation where there's the chance that something would happen and things could escalate very quickly. I am not in favor of a strike by the Israelis on the Iranian nuclear facilities at this time. The Trump administration is not in favor of a Israeli strike on the Iranian nuclear facilities at this time. A deal would be much better, and I think that there's just no general feeling among the American people that we should be drawn into any kind of Mideast conflict right now. That's really something that we just, for most of my adult life, Clay, we've been fighting wars in the Middle East.
Yeah.
It's just too much. And I showed up in some of these war zones, did what I could, what little bit I could to help. But this is something that I think really guides the Trump foreign policy on this. And this is going to there's going to be some tension around this issue because there are people that really truly believe that the Iranian regime is so maniacal, so bloodthirsty that it would use nukes against Israel. This is when you're playing the highest stakes imaginable when you're talking about this level of war and peace. But I do think that there's still a realistic and strong might be too much possibility, but a realistic possibility that Trump can get this done without this becoming a point of conflict. When you're talking about evacuating embassies, the issue isn't that we would lose war against Iran or that we'd even necessarily be brought into a war against Iran. It's the Iranian capability to engage in terror attacks against U.S. targets all over the world, which they may just decide to effectively go for broke if those facilities get hit, because it would destabilize the regime. The Iranian people, something that doesn't get talked about in this country, Clay, the Iranian people, as much as we're always told they are very pro-Western, they don't like their regime, they do, for the greatness of Iran, want it to be a nuclear power. This is something that does not get talked about, but the Iranian people want, a lot of them, now you could say, how could you know with the polling? There are ways that you can assess this stuff, but there's a national pride component of Iran getting this that makes it more complicated. It's not quite as clear a split with the regime on this issue as we would like it to be.
Yeah, and look, I think the challenge in general, you understand why Iran wants nuclear weapons, because Kim Jong-un has them, and basically he's preserved his family's ability to rule North Korea for generations to come unless somebody internally takes him out. I don't think anybody externally is. Why did Ukraine? I mean, if Ukraine could change one decision they made since the fall of the Berlin Wall, I bet it would be not giving up their nukes, because do you think Russia would have invaded Ukraine if Ukraine had kept the nukes?
This is unfortunately the takeaway from what happened in Libya, where the Obama and Hillary administration decided that they were going to engage in this NATO air war to help militias on the ground overthrow. And then, of course, Benghazi happened, and we remember some of this history. But Gaddafi was actually cooperating with the dismantling of and avoiding WMD programs. And we decided, meaning the U.S. government, you know what, not good enough. And they went in, and we saw the videos of what happened to Gaddafi. It's very hard to commit. And by the way, I think it's interesting. I wonder how many people, before I just said it now, knew that it is just known that the Iranian people want nukes. Like, this is not something that I have said that is a fringe belief or theory, but it makes this a more complicated situation, because the Iranian regime has been promising the security, and we don't really think of it this way because we're so used to America being the scientific power. We're so used to thinking of America as, of course we have nukes, and of course we have, satellites and space shuttles and all this amazing stuff. There is a pride in Iran among the people about the scientific achievement of being a nuclear power. By the way, this was true in Pakistan as well. Some people actually point to Pakistan and India as, well, they have nukes and they weren't supposed to. And now that gets very contentious, because Pakistan and India are not Iran and aren't doing the thing. Oh, Pakistan does some pretty bad stuff. But this is a moment where I think we're seeing decisions made on this issue. I don't think, Clay, the decision has been made one way or the other. In my mind, that's the atmospheric that I pick up. But I will say, just talking to people here in the vicinity of the decision-making process in D.C., they're very tense talking about Iran right now.
Well, I think that's 100% true. And remember, the motivation, according to multiple reports, for why Hamas attacked Israel on October 7th was that Saudi Arabia was prepared to join the Abraham Accords. And if Saudi Arabia had joined the Abraham Accords, then the peace in the Middle East situation would have been far more likely. And now that Syria, we have in some ways normalized relations with Syria, I think that Iran is isolated to a degree that may not have occurred in a generation. And that this is where Israel believes now is the time to hit them and keep them from having nukes. Whether the United States is going to agree with that Israeli perspective remains to be seen. But I think Israel is quite clearly behind the scenes advocating as aggressively as possible that now is the time to go.
Yes, well, the problem, and I think the Israeli government, I know, Clay, you went and visited and spoke to high-level officials there, but one of their concerns is also that without any fear of any real military direct attack on Iran, does that then embolden the Iranian regime to push its what are essentially imperial and almost colonizing activities by running these different proxy militias in places like Lebanon with Hezbollah and the Shia militias? Why are we so worried about Iraq and the U.S. Embassy in Iraq? Well, it's because the most capable military forces on the ground, when push comes to shove and shove comes to shooting, are Iranian-backed and trained proxy militias, essentially. So this is a huge challenge, a huge problem that we face, and I think that this is a test of the Trump administration's foreign policy and a test of our relationship with, well, allies in the Middle East, Israel first and foremost. So that's absolutely something we'll continue to follow. We'll also dive deeper into the riots, L.A., all that stuff here in just a moment.
But in the meantime, Israelis have been under attack one kind or another for more than a year and a half. It's when they need friends and support the most, which is why we're partnered. You mentioned, Buck, my trip over to Israel in December. It's why we're partnered with the International Fellowship of Christians and Jews. They're feeding elderly Holocaust survivors who have no one else. They're building bomb shelters to protect kids from rocket attacks. They're providing security essentials to first responders. I have seen all of this with my own eyes. The IFCJ has risen to this challenge with your help, and I can tell you that they are putting your donations to excellent work. We spent time with the IFCJ team last week in Florida, and they continue to work hard to stand up for so many people in need in the Holy Land. When you give a gift of $45 to the IFCJ, you're putting faith into action right where it's needed right where it's needed the most. Call 888-488-IFCJ. You can also visit IFCJ.org to bless Israel today with your donation. Again, that's IFCJ.org or 888-488-IFCJ. We are in Washington, D.C., and in Washington, D.C., you run into different people all the time. And yesterday on the sidewalk outside of the White House, I ran into one of the next congressmen from the great state of Arizona. He is Jay Feeley, been on before. All right, so you are making the rounds in Washington, D.C. as you get ready for a primary season. What is it like to go from kind of apolitical, I know you have political opinions out there, to now being a full-bore congressional candidate? What has surprised you the most about the process?
The amount of work you have to do fundraising, and I'll be honest, like, it shouldn't be about that. We shouldn't have to raise a ton of money because we want our best people in Washington, D.C. representing our country. So it shouldn't be about having to go out and raise money, and then whoever raises the most money, they're going to have an advantage. But that's the reality of the system. And so you have to spend 5-6 hours a day doing call time, calling people, trying to generate those donations. And then they judge you by, like, how much money you raise.
Do you ever have a conversation with somebody where you just want to talk about saving America and having the funds to do it, and they want to talk about that second kick you missed? I'm just wondering, does this ever come up?
Yeah, for sure. But it's kind of fun because I call somebody out of the blue and they actually know who I am. Oh yeah, you were the kicker or you were the announcer. And so it gives you that avenue to say, yeah, here's what I did. And here's why I'm willing to walk away from an announcing job where I only had to work 5 months of the year.
Yeah.
And I got paid well to do it and I loved doing it. And it was fun. But this is how much I care about my country that I want to walk away from that job and I want to represent the people of Arizona and D.C.
I bet for the most part, this is something that is very hard to do and learn how to do. Ask for money.
So hard.
Because I hear people who don't, it's one thing if you're in sales or you're fundraising, things like that. That's a job that some people have. But when I talk to people who have not done politics before, you mentioned it right off the top, the ask for, hey, can you help me? Mm-hmm. How tough is that?
Well, you have to sit there and you don't even get a tax deduction if you're donating to my campaign.
Yeah.
So it's terrible. But at the same time, the more you do it and when you meet people, I think right now in America, you have two different distinct parties that have completely different views of what America should look like, and they've never been further apart, not in my lifetime, so I think those people that love our country and that truly believe that President Trump and his America First policies are making our country better, they want to support candidates that are going to support him and that are willing to be advocates and willing to go on TV and aren't afraid of the blowback. And, that's the kind of guy I am. That's who I'll be in Congress.
One of the most important things that you would want to tackle, assuming you win this seat.
Well, for all Americans, I think
that was not supposed to be
no. The
play
two
on
issues,
words there. The tackling thing
that's
that
right.
just happened.
And I love to tackle. So
How many tackles have you made in your career?
I think about 50.
Oh, that's a lot. That's way more than I would have thought.
Oh, I was a guy running down there. Like I was going to hit you. That was fun for me. Kicking was my job.
Okay, let's be honest.
Tackling somebody was fun.
When the kicker annihilates somebody, the stadium goes insane.
Oh, and I'm like standing up, jacked up.
What was
excited.
the best?
Then I go back to silent. I'm like, oh my gosh.
What was the best hit you ever had on somebody?
Ted Ginn. No question. Yeah.
So when you hit Ted Ginn and you laid him out, does Ted Ginn say anything when he gets wrecked by a kicker?
Well, I had just been teammates, so I wasn't really hitting Ted Ginn. I was hitting Bill Parcells, but like through Ted Ginn because I was with the Dolphins. I led the league in field goal percentage, had the best year of my career, and then Bill Parcells came in. They fired everybody. He didn't like that I was the player rep. He didn't like that I did media. He wanted his kicker to go stand in a corner and not say a word, so they cut me and released me after my best year.
Wow.
So when I was running down on that kickoff against the Dolphins, the next game I played them, I was hitting Bill Parcells.
You saw Bill Parcells' face on Ted
and Tony
Ginn's
Sproul.
body.
No question. But I literally never broke stride, and Ted Ginn was going out right, and he cut back left, and he cut back right into me, and I hit him and knocked him back about 5 yards, and that was like the highlight of it. Even better than the touchdown I scored. Like that was the moment for me.
All right. So what are the issues that you would like to
back
address
to the issues.
for
So,
America?
Yes.
I think truly the two biggest issues for Americans, it's border insecurity and it's the economy. And when you look at what happened over the last 4 years with the Biden administration and Democrats in general, they willingly let tens of millions of illegals come into this country and put politics in front of the protection of the American people. They can't get away with that. They said for 4 years, we need a bill passed. We can't do anything. We need a bill passed. And then Trump comes in and in 4 months completely close down the border and secure the border. And so the American people need to hold Democrats accountable for that. They want to ignore it. And all the issues that we're seeing in L.A. and throughout the country, that goes directly back to what they did at the border and the decisions they made to let those people come across. And I'm an advocate for legal immigration. Like I had 2 kids that we brought legally from Haiti and helped them go to college. So when I stand up there and talk about securing the border and not having illegal immigration, I think we also have to be able to say, hey, it's okay to love immigrants and to want more legal immigration and an easier legal immigration process while being ardently against illegal immigration. I think those two things get conflicted. And then the economy, people just want to be able to look at their future, especially young. My son's here with me. He's on the campaign, just got married. Him looking at buying a house in our district, median house, $450,000.
Yeah, it's crazy.
It's doubled twice in the last 6 years out in Arizona. And you see that across the country, this massive inflation. And so you have to find ways to help people believe in their future and believe that I'm going to be able to provide for my family and that I'm going to have a job. And I think that's the job of President Trump and the Republicans right now. Create a bill that helps everyone. Create a bill that helps the economy, that grows the economy, and provides opportunity for everyone.
You have been in sports for a long time. I saw you weigh in on this. We talked about it earlier the week on the show. She since apologized. What did you think when Simone Biles went after Riley Gaines?
Obviously, she didn't have the full concept of what she was talking about because now she's pulled back those comments. But as a dad who coached his daughter's girls' high school soccer team, they didn't have a girls' team when my daughter was going into high school. I'm like, that's ridiculous. They said, well, we need a coach. I said, all right, I'll coach the team. So we started the team. 5 years later, we win a state championship. But watching those girls and what they accomplished and the opportunities they had and those life lessons, I don't want that taken away from any single girl because a guy decides I want to play in girls' sports. And the argument that they're not biologically better is absolutely ridiculous. It's completely devoid from any rational thinking.
And this is important. All right. This is an issue I wanted to dig into since you sat down with us. Clay thinks that in his current state, he could go 1v1 against a WNBA player.
Okay.
Inside.
Well, excuse me, I'm setting this up.
All right. I don't want him thinking that I'm going to break down Caitlin Clark.
He's already hedging, okay? He's already hedging. But he thinks that he could, old man style, use that wide body and
back her down.
Back her down, and
can you shoot?
Game to 11.
I was a pretty good shooter.
I didn't say no. You said in the past tense.
Yeah.
I'm saying,
well,
can you
the
shoot?
only thing I
the
can...
player. Clay thinks game to 11, he can take Angel Reese and has put up $250,000.
I want to see it.
On
I'll be
this
there.
idea.
I would see, but I'm irrational thinking that I could do it too.
Would you back his play, or would you hedge against our man Clay?
I think I could go and I could take on the women's U.S. national team in soccer right now at 49 years old as well. I think I could go out there and play with them.
You probably could. I mean, you could dominate with your.
I'm an old professional.
Clay and I are voice athletes. We're vocal cord studs.
So your question is an important one. So the only recent basketball play I have had was against my 8th grade son. Now he's a pretty good basketball player, but he's probably 5'8", 5'9", so I'm bigger than him. And he's going to be so disappointed that I said this publicly to millions of people. I beat him head to head in the backyard. Now, he was really upset, that I beat him. So that's the last time
that's your job as a dad is to beat him. Absolutely.
Some people are like, hey, I'll let him win. I was like, no, I'm going to make him work. Now, he's had about 3 or 4 months since then where he has continued on the upswing, and dad's definitely on the downswing. And the last time I played, I don't know if you know this, in a competitive game, and this is a sad thing, but they have like lawyer basketball leagues. And I played probably 7 or 8 years ago in Nashville. And I do remember, Buck, which is why I'm saying inside, I remember being in a defensive crouch and not a great basketball player against me cross me over. And I was like, well, he's going to cross me over. I should take a step to the side so I'm still in front of him. And I just didn't move. Like where you have
the mind and the body were not aligned.
I knew
delayed reaction.
I knew what I should do. I was like, all right, he's taking me to the right now. He's going to come back to the left. And I was like, I should just step over. And it didn't happen.
There are montages already in the heads of the audience where you've seen Rocky. I'm going to be on the bicycle next to Clay, telling him, if he gets this Angel Reese showdown that he wants, I got to train him up. I got to train him up.
My 8th grade son's basketball team, they're rising 9th graders now. They're pretty good. And they were like, hey, we will train you.
So I play with LPGA girls in golf.
Well, yes.
There's a couple of members that I'll play with them, and I can beat them. When I play well, and I'm a 2, so not great, but like when I play well and I putt well, I can beat them head to head.
That's from playing from the men's tees.
That's playing the exact same tees, right, all the way back, right. So if you take a dude, like here, my son out here is 22. He's a 2 as well, but he hits it like 350. If he decided, I want to play in the LPGA Tour, and I'm going to identify as a woman.
Yeah.
It's ridiculous.
Yeah,
they would dominate that tour. Just like Serena Williams saying, hey, if I played, the 50th or 100th ranked man, like I'd get my butt kicked.
I might have to bring your services as an announcer into the mix. If we do this Clay Angel Reese showdown,
I will come
and really produce this thing properly.
Let's go.
Yeah,
I will come announce it.
By the way, the athletes, white, black, Asian, Hispanic, men in particular, athletes, guys who even played high school, college, or pro. Are there any guys that actually think this is okay that you've ever met of any background?
I don't think rational men do.
Yeah.
You talk about locker room. We talked about this last time. I think maybe 5%, less than 5%, because you know how special sports is, and you know the impact that it has on people's lives and how it can change the direction of someone's life. And I think that's what makes it so special, and you want to protect that for women. It's not saying that I don't love somebody who's transgender. I don't want to see them happy. That's not it at all. You're saying, hey, let's protect sports for women and make sure that we're not taking something away, an accomplishment from somebody because some guy says, I want to compete in women's swimming or I want to compete in a women's sport. It's just not right. It's not fair, and it's not safe.
Jay, what is your site for Congress? We need those folks to step up and help you in your district.
JayFeeleyForCongress.com. You can go on there, check it out. You can donate and support. And listen, we're just trying to make this country better every day. I think that's why I'm willing to walk away from my job in broadcasting, because I believe in this country. I believe in its future. And, I want to be a part of making it better.
Through the uprights for America.
That's
there
right. Make America great again, and let's keep it that way.
Amen. Jay Feeley, go check out that site. Look, I want to tell you, Pure Talk, gifting 1,000 military veterans American-made American flags. Flags. This is a company led by a veteran himself. Flags made by Allegiance Flag. Pure Talk believes every service member who's faithfully served this country deserves to proudly fly an American flag, one that's made in America. You can participate too. Just switch your cell phone service to Pure Talk. This month, a portion of your monthly rate will go to provide high quality flags to deserving veterans. With plans from just $25 a month for unlimited talk, text, plenty of data, you can enjoy America's most dependable 5G network while cutting your cell phone bill in half. Average family saves over $1,000 a year. Just dial pound 250. Say the keywords Clay and Buck. Pure Talk's U.S. customer service will get you switched hassle-free in as little as 10 minutes. Again, dial pound 250. Say Clay and Buck to support veterans and to switch to America's wireless company, Pure Talk.
Hey, Buck, one of my kids called me an unk the other day.
An unk?
Yep, slang evidently for not being hip, being an old dude.
So how do we un-unk you?
Get more people to subscribe to our YouTube channel. At least that's what my kids tell me.
That's simple enough. Just search the Clay Travis and Buck Sexton Show and hit the subscribe button.
Takes less than 5 seconds to help un-unk me.
Do it for Clay, do it for freedom, and get great content while you're there. The Clay Travis and Buck Sexton Show YouTube channel.
We're playing some of your talkbacks, and you can always leave us messages. Easy way to get through to the show. And a lot of them, as regularly are the case, are fantastic, and we enjoy listening to those. And we've talked a little bit about the fact that the New York City mayor's race is coming up very fast. And by mayor's race, we mean, it's unfortunate, but oftentimes now whoever wins the primary on the Democrat side is going to be the mayor. New York's current mayor, for those of you who haven't been paying attention, Eric Adams, we don't know exactly what he's going to do. Maybe he's going to run as an independent. He's not running in the Democrat primary. And right now, Andrew Cuomo is the favorite. And we talked about this, and Buck does a phenomenal Andrew Cuomo.
Thank you.
Buck does a phenomenal Andrew Cuomo impersonation. And I'm going to play. This is actually crazy because as much as you may think Andrew Cuomo is a crazy man, as much as you may think Andrew Cuomo is not worthy of being the mayor, and Buck, as a former New York City resident, born and raised, you may take this as a crazy take. I actually think Andrew Cuomo is, as Democrat candidates go, maybe the rational, reasonable one. Can you believe this?
This is like being told that you have the choice of amputating your hand or both of your legs. You know, this is a very tough decision to be made, and it's not a fun one no matter what.
Yeah, it's you're going to have to chop a finger off, and which one are you going to decide to go with? Yes, I agree, but I want to play for you. This is, I believe, team, make sure that I'm correct on this. This is, I believe, considered to be, again, based on polling, the top candidate against Cuomo.
Yes. No, it is Zoran Mamdani.
Zoran Mamdani. This is the guy who was endorsed by AOC recently that we were talking about yesterday, if I'm not mistaken. Listen to this crazy town perspective that he had. Back in 2020, he said that police should be removed from high crime areas altogether, and that he believes cops should be replaced with social workers. This is how crazy town some of these decisions are. And this is a top candidate to potentially be New York City mayor. Listen to cut one.
Do you think that we have to almost do without policing in certain areas, which are labeled to be high crimes, to have alternative bodies, do the policing in a more compassionate, more merciful, more social, assisting and helping, more than arresting and putting in jail?
I absolutely think that what we need to do is give support and funding to institutions that are trained to deal with these kinds of issues. Mm-hmm. As you said, if you're having an argument with someone and there's a risk of it escalating, who is better positioned to de-escalate it? Someone who is well known in the community, or someone who has been trained specifically in de-escalation, mm-hmm. or a stranger who has a gun?
This is moronic beyond words. One of the reasons that this will not be something that New Yorkers go for in this election, Meaning specifically on this issue of depolicing, which is what he was. What year was that? Was back in
2020. This is during the crazy town.
Yeah, of course. I was going to say he was saying this because that was what the politics of the moment demanded. As we have seen, and as we know from the numbers, the BLM movement has resulted in substantially more homicides in this country, disproportionately affecting members of the minority community. So more people, particularly black and brown people, dead than would have been had they not mounted this campaign to depolice these areas. And here's what's remarkable, I think, about what we've seen and what we've learned since then, not just based on the numbers, Clay. Because of police body cams, these arguments that are made are much more difficult. And because of the proliferation of videos, I'll give you an example. Here we are in Washington, D.C. It was actually a former Georgetown basketball player. The incident involved was a female.
Yeah, that's right.
And she was a former Georgetown University basketball player, and it was a wellness call. So this is the perfect example. A wellness call by a Virginia police officer to check on somebody who was in substantial distress, right? That was the backstory. And when he came to the door, and it's all on video, she grabbed a large razor-sharp kitchen knife and tried to kill him. And he had to shoot her, and he was entirely justified. It's very sad. She clearly was having some kind of a mental breakdown, but there's no choice here, right? I mean, if somebody attacks you like that, you have an absolute human right, not just a legal right, a human right to defend yourself. What if a social worker had been there? Well, if a social worker had been there, it would have been a dead body that, would have been unable to protect himself or herself. That's just one example, but when you look at the situations that they oppose, that they talk about, we need violence. Like, this was the thing they used to talk about, violence interrupters. The only person that has any chance of being a violence interrupter is somebody who is on the side of the good guys and can do violence to protect those who are being victimized, himself or herself. There's no chance that you're going to call together and in the moment some special healer of the people who's just going to be like, everything's fine, guys. Like, put your guns down. And also, who would want that job?
Totally. It's crazy. Who would want to get called in the middle of the night and told, hey, there's a super violent situation. Can you talk them down with no weapons?
Yeah.
I mean, is there anybody who I don't want to sign up for that job.
You know why I remember this very much because I was absolutely furious about what was going on in New York. That riot, there was a BLM riot on my block and shattered all the storefronts, and, restaurants had their doors kicked in and their windows broken and stuff like that. And I remember when all this is going on, they were making these kinds of crazy arguments. It was a real mass hysteria moment in the country. It was part of COVID, made everyone freak out. And then the left, the street communists used this to get everyone to go crazy. But they made these kinds of arguments then. I don't think they can get away with making these kinds of arguments now because we see what actually happens and what the reality is. And also when they would say things like, we need violence interrupters, when you would actually talk to these people, this came out over time. It was, I need a cop there with me, right? Like, I'm not just showing up between the gang members who are armed, who are about to shoot each other, as if also you can it's like a Batman movie where someone just appears right when the bad guys are about to do, that's a movie. That's not reality, right? The only thing that really works from a law enforcement perspective, the NYPD, all the data shows this, is you put, they call it cops on dots, more cops in places where bad things are happening so that the, 95% of people who commit no crimes, or 99 or whatever the number is, they get to go to work and they get to go to the grocery store and they get to do things safely. And the people that want to commit crimes have to deal with the consequences of their actions. So the point here is the New York City mayoral candidate, number 2, Zohran Mamdani, is an insane communist. And the fact that anybody would vote for him is a total indictment of the insanity of the Democrat electorate in New York.
And this is really going to hurt Moses from San Diego at Kogo there, where we've been number 1 for a while, off and on. We appreciate everybody listening in Southern California. He has asked, please don't talk about Andrew Cuomo anymore. And unfortunately, I think he's going to be the mayor. And even more unfortunately, I think he may be the best of a series of awful choices. Listen to BB here.
Good morning, men. Congratulations on your continued success. Look, do all of us listeners a favor and just summarize anytime that idiot Cuomo speaks. There has never been a more sanctimonious and he is a condescending. Don't ever play his voice again, please.
Moses, I feel like I do not have your vote. Moses, I would like to work for your vote as mayor and as a future presidential candidate under the Democrat ticket.
I guess Moses does not believe in Andrew Cuomo's ability to part the Red Sea and lead him to a primrose path of victory in our nation's largest city. But this is the choices we're left with, and I don't even know what the impact would be if this crazy town individual ended up the mayor. I mean, Bill de Blasio was a disaster.
Horrible. I mean, Bill, the difference between de Blasio and Adams, and remember, I still have half of my family, my parents, my sister, half my family still lives in New York City. So I'm hearing about it all the time, and our team is based out of New York City on radio, right? So, the thing with Bill de Blasio was that he made the city suffer and thought it was what we deserved in New York, whereas Mayor Adams tried to fix it. He's just incapable of doing it. He just isn't up for the job. So it's a different, both of them are not good enough at what they were trying to do, but with Adams, it was not that much, really of an improvement at all. So that was pretty disappointing, but unfortunately that is the reality that we were facing at that time. So we'll see what happens. Maybe we'll get our buddy, the sage of Staten Island, Joe Borelli, on, talk about, what's going on with this mayor's race.
Which is happening soon. It's the next big election in terms of the primary. It's going to be in the next 2 weeks. I think June 24th is that date, if I'm not mistaken. Look, when President Trump signed an executive order last month slashing the cost of prescription drug prices, he was making a point. He intends to see prescription medicine priced in the country, same prices you might find in Canada or throughout Europe, with the purpose of reducing medical coverage costs in the United States. Even when that fair pricing kicks in on prescriptions, not going to help improve what you're getting now with Obamacare or the Affordable Care Act, which is anything but affordable. There are better healthcare options out there, like Ease for Everyone. Compared to Obamacare, Ease for Everyone comes with a monthly cost as low as $262. You get access to over 400 prescription drugs for free, not just at a lower cost. That's no cost, $0. Unlike the broken promise of Obamacare, you can actually keep your doctor, plus free unlimited virtual primary care. Get affordable health care for as low as $262 a month with Ease for Everyone. The website, easeforeveryone.com/Clay. That's Ease, F-O-R, everyone.com/Clay.
We are continuing to follow very closely these protests and riots. We use those words interchangeably. There are protests and there are riots, so you don't have to correct us when we say protests. We're aware of both of these things, and protest is fine. And as we learned from Caroline Leavitt yesterday, it is a stupid question for anyone in the press to say, does President Trump? I like the way she handled that, because that was just meant to be an insult. It's like, does President Trump believe in the Constitution? Like, yeah, idiot. Ask a real question. So I like the way that she handled that. That was great. Caroline Leavitt. You know, we were on the Leavitt train very early here. I'm just saying, we were on the Leavitt train when she was running for Congress, so we knew she was going to be a superstar. And here she is. But you had the press trying to make something of this, trying to make it seem like the American people aren't with the Trump administration efforts to enforce the law. And some very interesting things are going on with all this, with these riots, with these protests, all that stuff. First of all, I think on how this has gone over politically, former Democrat, this is cut 5, Batya Ungar-Sargon. We've talked about her before here. We had her on the show recently. Yeah, we had her on the show. She was on that CNN panel. The only thing worth watching at CNN, doesn't this tell you something, Clay, is the occasional center-right person, sometimes a centrist, sometimes truly right-wing, from Scott Jennings, Sir Michael Singleton, Batya Ungar-Sargon, Ben Ferguson. The only thing worth watching is the conservative slapping around the libs at that table. Here is Batya talking about the deportations and the truth of what Trump promised. Play 5.
I hear this talking point a lot from Democrats, that Donald Trump misled the American people and somehow said he was only going to deport violent criminals.
He said he was going to prioritize
At every
violent criminals.
single rally that I watched, he said, we are going to have the largest deportation operation in American history. And the reason he did that is because that position has majority support with the American people. And that position is what got him the majority of working class people. Because immigration is a topic that divides the working class from the elites. 100%. The elites are the consumers of low-wage labor. And when you guys say they're taking people from the community, what you mean is they're taking people from the workforce, people who undercut the wages of American workers, which is why the working class flipped from the Democrats to the Republicans.
Two important points she's making there, Clay. One, Trump promised the biggest deportation operations in history. Prioritizing the worst of the worst offenders doesn't give everyone else a pass in this. It's just, okay, yeah, we're going to focus on getting the, child molesters and, gang members with blood on their hands, get them out of the country who are illegal aliens first. So that's point one. Trump is doing exactly what he promised, which is why I keep saying, everyone says, who voted for Trump? Yeah, I voted for this. I voted for this. And the second part of it is just the exploitation of cheap labor and how central that is to the donor class, to the elites. And this brings me to, they're going to have to start enforcing fines against employers with this. They have to come at this from, which is going to be a little bit of a wake-up call, but it needs to happen. It is illegal if you are employing large numbers or any numbers of illegals in your business. You're not supposed to. Now, someone will say, but they have fake Social Security cards and they have fake. So it's a little more complicated. But for the worst offenders, you need to do some deterrence enforcement.
Yeah, and I do think that the degree to which illegal immigrants have incredibly detailed fake Social Security cards, you say, okay, well, how does that happen? I don't know how they get them made, but Social Security then gets paid money that never go out. So that is some element out there for people who say, okay, well, how does this happen? The money still goes in for payroll taxes, except the numbers are not necessarily getting matched. Now, sometimes my understanding is there is identity theft and fraud going on, and it's a complicated aspect. But yes, that factors in. I thought this was interesting too, because they tried to say for a long time, well, there's not actually riots going on in L.A. Remember, Brian Stelter went on CNN and he said, remember, it's very important to note that 99.9% of Los Angeles is having no issue at all. And meanwhile, yesterday, L.A. Mayor Karen Bass said the city has so much graffiti that the vandalism so extensive, they won't be ready for the World Cup next year. Listen to this cut, because it definitely calls into question the talking point that this is a small issue of violent and illegal behavior. Cut 8.
The graffiti that is just blanketing a number of blocks has been extensive. We are 1 year away from the World Cup. This is about beautifying our city and bringing our city together. And so I am calling on business leaders, community leaders, faith leaders to come together downtown in the next few days to talk about how we are going to clean up the city. Obviously, city workers are already out there removing the graffiti, but this is so extensive, it's going to take community-wide involvement. We had launched a program called Shine LA a couple of months ago in preparation for the World Cup, and now we are called on to direct that citywide. We need people from all over the city to come to downtown and to help with this effort.
Okay, I got a crazy idea for you, Buck. Maybe the people who did the graffiti as a part of paying penance for their crimes should have to clean up the graffiti that they created, instead of asking good people in Los Angeles who had nothing to do with this and LA area taxpayers to clean up the mess that they created, and frankly, that the mayor and the governor allowed to occur. Second part on this, I actually think Trump could come out and say, why does Los Angeles deserve to host the World Cup? I mean, there are lots of cities in red states that are not rioting. You live in Florida. There's a whole heck of a lot.
We'll talk about how Florida.
Yeah, we're going to play that cut in a sec from Ron DeSantis as governor. But there's a whole heck of a lot of places. I know some of these cities are already hosting the World Cup, but there are a lot of red states out there where I think Trump could say, why should you reward a city that wasn't able to keep itself from rioting with a World Cup host? You got a year away. There's a lot of stadiums where you could host games.
Well, I also think, as somebody who saw firsthand what a visual virus graffiti can be in New York and this is, you go back to these movies, whether it's the Charles Bronson Death Wish movies or just, I think Warriors with the gangs. I mean, all these different, there was just graffiti everywhere. And when I was, a kid in the city, early 90s, there was in the nicest neighborhoods, there was graffiti everywhere. And it was a constant, psychological menace of degradation, of barbarism. I know people say, it's just no. It's destruction of property. It's lawlessness. It's criminality. And it's just a sign of the criminality that is constantly all around you. It is a visual reminder, the same way that masks during COVID were so important to the left because it was a visual reminder of who is in charge and your mandatory obedience, right? That's what it was. It was obedience training for the masses. When you have graffiti everywhere, it is the psychological, assault of you're in a lawless place. You're in a place where people don't respect property, where the authorities can't actually protect you. So I am so adamantly anti-graffiti as a thing. I do not take it lightly. I think that it gets worse and worse and worse in places that I know that it does because I see, and you can turn it around, but you gotta be, to your point, you gotta be harsh with people who do it. And one of the best ways to do it is, you know what? You can either go to prison or you can spend every weekend for the next 6 months cleaning up graffiti. Yeah. How about that? Yes. And that absolutely is the way that it should be. But it also just goes to the mentality of these people who are involved in these. Because if it's all over the city, we're talking about a lot of people who are doing this, obviously, and they think that the laws don't apply to them.
And they're often right, unfortunately.
Well, I'm hoping that Trump is going to show that, at least when it comes to immigration, and I think he is showing this, and this is the whole point, the laws do apply to them. But I'm seeing more. I even saw somebody on Twitter suggesting this. Says, yeah, that's what I say. If these people, if you don't have to be legal in this country, I don't have to pay taxes. Increasingly, this has, and you can make the same arguments. My tax dollars do. I'm a nice person. I don't hurt anybody. But you don't need my taxes. The Treasury Department isn't going to go bankrupt without my taxes. You're going to lock me up. You're going to separate me from my family if I don't pay taxes. Same kind of arguments you can make about illegal immigration, except they're making it for tens of millions of people. But This is the same argument. I'm not hurting anybody. Well, but you're actually breaking the law, and you're making a choice to break the law.
I also think, Buck, the way that the far left is coming together on these rallies and these riots, this cut we have here from Seattle, there are other cities where people are starting to riot. Listen, I don't know how well you'll be able to hear this, but SPD, Seattle Police Department, KKK, we all know what the KKK is, Ku Klux Klan, and then the IDF, the Israeli Defense Forces, they're all the same. This is a chant right now that's going on in Seattle. This is part of their worldview on the left, connecting all these different aspects of the world. Listen to cut 4.
Who street? Our street! Who street? Our street! Who street? Our street! SPD!
Okay, not necessarily the easiest slogan to chant, but Buck, this is indicative of the global worldview that they are trying to bring together. We'll talk about this a bit more. We also have an unbelievable woke white protester that we're going to play for you from New York City. We'll hit that as well.
There's news of a data breach, a massive one, involving AT&T customer records. Nearly 90 million previously breached customer records have been repackaged and are for sale on the dark web once again. The exposed data posted on a Russian cybercrime forum includes full names, social security numbers, addresses, phone numbers, and emails. If these records are exploited, cybercriminals can commit identity theft against so many people, including you. It's important to understand how cybercrime and identity theft are affecting our lives. And you need to know how to protect your online identity. LifeLock is your first step in that. LifeLock monitors millions of data points a second for risks to your identity. LifeLock detects and alerts you to potential identity threats you may not spot on your own, like crimes committed by thieves pretending to be you. If you do become a victim of identity theft, a dedicated U.S.-based restoration specialist will fix it, guaranteed, or your money back. Get your online identity protected before it's too late. Join now and save 40% off your first year with my name, Buck, as your promo code. Call 1-800-LifeLock or go online to lifelock.com and use promo code BUCK for 40%.
This is an iHeart podcast.